Hey there, how's it going? Professor Rice here, and this is the first video in a series of videos that I'm going to be doing for this class, in which I'm going to be taking this song that I produced by a band called Human Radio, and we're going to start with the fundamentals of this mix, just from the very beginning of the scratch of this, and then we're going to build it up all the way to a final mix over the course of several videos. In doing so, I'm hoping that I can show you a wide variety of tricks and tips that I use when I'm mixing that you can maybe use as well. Some workflow ideas. I do have my own sort of workflow. Everybody has their own. I want you to adopt your own, but at the same time, I figured this is a good opportunity to maybe see how somebody else does this kind of thing, and then you can sort of go, well, that's not how I want to do it. That's cool. That's part of learning things. So, hey, we're just going to go through this process. This first part of this process is kind of fairly basic. It's stuff that we've already been kind of doing with sessions, which is basically setting the stage for a mix, getting everything kind of ready to go. So I've got a little pre-flight checklist over here on the right that I've made. We can refer to from time to time that I want to sort of get. I just want to make sure I get everything addressed on this checklist before we get started with the mix. Because personally, what I like to do when I'm mixing, I don't want to think about it too much. I want to start getting into the process, and I just sort of responding to what I'm hearing, responding to what I'm feeling and I'm thinking in that process, and not have to be stopping and going all the time, making new tracks and routing things and sort of looking for things. I don't want to get bothered by the minutia of the session. And the problem is a lot of times with a lot of sessions, we get a lot of tracks. There's a lot of stuff going on. When we producers, this producer in particular gets this idea to keep putting shit on the track. Just can't help it, it's pathological sometimes. So then sometimes you got to get rid of some of these tracks, and we'll look through that, and sometimes maybe we'll do that. But for the most part, we're going to try and see if we can't make a coherent mix out of this. So I'm going to warn you in advance, this mix, that when we start listening to it, everything. Let me just look at the other. Let's look at the other page here. As you can see, this is I've got all this stuff done on the faders, and this is sort of before I got the gospel for clip game. But mostly, I just got this together just to get a basic mix together of everything, so we can just sort of, when we're hearing it, we're not just blasting everything out. Because all of these at a Unity playing will probably just be pushing a little bit into the red. So right now, this is managed just for playback. And just to look at what's going on here, as you can see here at the bottom, all these tracks, everything's kind of Harlequin in color here. All our outputs are here, all of them are going to A1 and 2, which is my monitor. So there's no routing yet. There's no master, submix, or mix track here. This is just pretty much each individual track is routed to the monitor individually. So as a result, we can hear each one of these tracks. As you can see, a lot of the stuff's in mono. Some of the stuff's already been spread out. I'm not really sure why. Let's just put these back in mono. I've just got pretty much everything in mono. I've got these rooms left and right already, but most of the times when you get tracks, you're going to get a lot of stuff up in mono, and you're going to have to make panning decisions on your own. That's cool. That's your business. So, all right, so I've got a bunch of stuff here. I'm going to have to start doing some track assessment. So I'm hoping that you've already listened to the sort of the rough mix. Actually, it's not the rough mix. It's probably the album mix that you guys got to hear of this song. And you can kind of sort of make some deductions, which is kind of the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to listen to the track, listen to whatever rough mix I have, and I'm going to make notes about macros. And what I mean by that, just general sense of what the tune is about. And this tune, one of the things that I'm definitely picking up on is that there's two sections that have been smushed together. There's two very distinct styles of music that are sort of being presented here. And it's not so much a verse chorus, it's more like song one, song two. So I think that's going to be kind of cool. It gives me an opportunity to make the most of that differentiation, which I think I will. So I've listened to it. There's a lot going on with these mixes. There's a lot happening, but also the thing that's been addressed already with this is arrangement. There's and a lot of stuff is sort of occupying its space sonically. There's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of overlapping. There's some masking going on. There's just a lot of stuff happening. I'm going to have to sort of do some cleaning up. There's going to be some EQ and a lot of subtractive EQ. And let's look further down here. As you can see, nothing's consolidated yet either. This is all still pretty much at the end of the production process. And a lot of times, again, if you're going to start a mix, you'll probably get this consolidated already. but I haven't consolidated this yet. Everything's still sort of individual, and we're going to want to consolidate before we go much further. But as you can see, everything is kind of harlequin here. We're not exactly sure what we have here. So one thing that we do notice if we go over look on the left here, but everything is kind of lined up. We have all of our drums. We got kick all the way up to room here. We've got some percussion here. 4 tracks of that. We've got 3 tracks of bass, 2 for this section and 1 for this section. We've got 1 guitar here. We got a second guitar that's 2 microphones, a 57 and a 121. And then we got 3rd, 4th, and 5th guitars over here. All of these are on this section. These are on this section. We have an acoustic guitar that plays through on these sections. And at the end, we have a violin thing here at the end that's kind of got a little rainbow parade over here. That's obviously been constructed from a variety of takes. So then we have a second guitar person. That's me, Ross, guitar. I have 3 parts, 2 of them in these sections and 1 of them in the other section. I've got this little bird thing we'll look at here from my guest star, Reeves Gabrels from Tin Machine, the Cure fame. I've got some keyboards. I've got keyboards, a riff, a sample, another sample, an orchestra. So I've got everything's sort of coming up pretty much. With all the instruments are sort of lined up, but if I didn't have it that way, I would need to do that right now, just sort of line everybody up into their respective areas and slots, try to figure out where they belong. Then I've got my lead vocal, and I've got 2 of those, well, 1 for each section, so they're obviously a little bit different. I've got a little lead vocal extra, I've got a double, so these 4 I'll probably keep together as a lead vocal sort of stuff. Then I got harmony vocals, delays. I've got some background vocals, so all of these sort of go into the background thing. So the good thing is that I've got everything kind of lined up. So the first order of business really is going to be some track assessment. And I'm just going to start this mix, not really start this mix, I'm going to start this track, and I'm going to solo each of the tracks and sort of see what's happening on each track. So here we go. Let's check it out here. Kick. I'm getting some tom-tom bleed in there. We might want to address that. Cool. Snare sounds nice. Single mics on those. I've got a rack tom. I've got a very tom-heavy thing happening here. There's a lot of tom-toms going on these 2 particular toms. So I have a feeling as you can hear that. There's that ring going on. That's rack tom. I'm probably going to have to deal with that. I don't want to have that necessarily ringing through the whole tune, or do I? Maybe I do. We'll see. I got another floor tom here, but those don't hit until later. We'll check that out later. Okay, moving right along. I got a crap mic. Oh, that's a crap mic, all right. What am I going to do with that crap mic? I don't really know yet. I might just go ahead and have that on the snare drum, and sort of like have the snare drum trigger that on a gate, so I get a little more yucky sort of craziness on my snare drum. I don't know. We'll see what happens. It can be kind of useful to get texture into my mix later. Okay, here's my overhead on the drums. I got a single overhead. I don't have a stereo pair overhead, but I do have a pair for the room. So let's add the room to the overhead. There may be some phasing issues between those. We're going to address that when we go and do the drums. But I get a nice little spaciousness on the drum kit and all that. The room has a nice spaciousness. Not bad. I can use that. Okay, let's see what's going on with these guys here. Okay, let's go ahead and solo all 4 of these percussions. And let's zoom in and see what's going on here. Okay, I've got this thing happening here where it's a little boom. That's going to go along with the drum pattern. Let's take this back out. Good life on the mountain, loving, living free. Okay, that's going to be sort of brought in underneath the kit, the drum kit. Let's check out the bass. So I got these 2 bass tracks here. One of them is a sub octave. This one here. And then I got this pure one. That's kind of nice. And then together, they come in together. This is we'll have to sort of probably blend those together nicely, maybe put a little bit of compression. It looks like those levels are very steady. And then we have a second bass part for the next section. Let's look at that real quick. It's a bit more aggressive. Nice. It's got a rock sound to it. Let's see, where am I here? Okay, let's skip these other guitars real quick and just jump down. Better yet, let's go ahead and start back here and let's hear these guitars in order. So let's just hear what's happening with these guitars right here. Let's solo them up, see what's going on with those. Okay, I got a little clean sound there. And a little fuzz sound. And my fuzz sound is kind of cool. Let's hear the difference between the 57 and the 121. Let's check it out. First the 57. And right now they're grouped. Let's ungroup those. So let me open this group up a little more. Let's ungroup those. And let's just hear the 57. Let's just hear the 121. So you can hear the 121 has less of those high-end things, but together they make a nice. It's a great combination. So I got a clean. I might make a note of this in my comments. So I've got a clean here and I got a fuzz here on those. Let's check out these guys over here. No, don't do that. Don't do that. All right, let's check these out here. So these. Okay, these are all different parts, but they're in different sounds. Single mic. So I'm not sure I'll use all three of those. I got three of them. They all seem to blend together though when you get them up. They represent different sonic ranges. Okay, let's hear what's happening with the acoustic guitar at the beginning here. Let's check this out. See what's going on with that. Okay, let's go over here and let's pan these guys out. And they sound like two different parts. It's not the same guitar part with the two microphones. It's two different passes. Because there's discrepancies there. Also, if we look at the track, we can see there's been a bit of manipulation done here. Some time manipulation. I know because I did it. Okay, let's go see what's going on with this violin. Skip on down here, and we got this little rainbow parade here. Let's hear these guys real quick. I got a microphone on the violin. I got an amplifier. I can blend those together. Cool. All right, they'll probably be blended somehow. Let's go check out Ross Guitar 1. Let's go see what's going on with this guitar part here. Okay, that's another sort of clean part that sort of offsets this guitar part over here. That thing. So we'll probably want to pan those away from each other. All right, then we have this guitar here. Let's see what that's doing. Ross Guitar 2. So that's sort of a clean counterpart to these dirty guys over here. Let's check those out with it. Okay, we'll have to sort of address that blend at some point. Okay, then Ross Guitar 3. That goes along with the second section. Let's solo that up. And this can be working with these guys. And we're hearing all of those in mono right now, so that sort of helps us sort of go, well, geez, we might want to sort out some masking issues in mono, because if everything's in mono, we can really hear if there's if some things are masked. There's definitely masking happening here with the guitars. I may just subtract one. I've got 4 of them here. I don't know if I need all 4 of them. We'll address that later. Anyways, oops, sorry. Don't mind me. All right, moving along with our track assessment here. So far so good. Let's check out this bird thing. This is courtesy of Reeves Gabrels. There's also an effect printed with this, so let's hear this real quick. I can probably put that with the violin in the violin situation. Okay, I got some keys here. Let's check out these while I'm right here. Let's look at what's going on here. And that's cool. All right, let's check out this sample that's underneath it. They'll be together. So we'll probably have to sort that a lot. There's a little overlap there. But they kind of work together. They're kind of copacetic. Let's check out this sample here. That's my little boingy boingy harp. Okay, let's check out this orchestra here. Oh wait, let me check it out over here. Okay, that goes along with all these guitar parts. So we got that going on. And then I got my lead vocal here. It's basically now, we'll check that out here in a minute, but I've got two different versions of that. I've got a lead vocal extra over here. So these four I'm going to have together. I've got a vocal double. Let's just check that out. Long time coming round, and you feel like you're never going down. Okay, that's working out. That's my double for the vocal there. Then I've got some harmony vocals here. I got a vocal delay. I'll keep those right there for now. I've got these background vocals. Let's just hear all those together. I'm going to solo those up and pull them up here. Let's listen to those. Real. So I got a bunch of dudes that are all sort of spread out. So I'll probably just go ahead and scatter them around here in a bit when we start doing some panning. Once we get around to them, we'll figure out what we need to do with them once it's time to do that. In the meantime, we've got pretty much everybody figured out who's doing what. So cool. So at this point, I may made some notes down here. I may go up to View here and the mix window and open up comments. And underneath here, I can make comments about what's going on here. For instance, we might make a comment about this as being like this is clean, this is dirty. We may make some notes about the guitar so we know what we got with the guitars. We got a bunch of guitars to deal with. But anyways, make the notes as you need to so you know what you're looking at. Then we need to go ahead and do our track grouping and color coding. I've already made some groups here. So let's just at least get about the color coding. And just to remind you about how to do that, let's go up to options here. Hang on a second. Let's go here. Wait a minute. I think I must be playing. All right, so let's get back to this here. Okay. All right, let's do this. Go ahead and group all these drums, for instance. Click on the color, and let's make them all blue. Yeah, the other thing, so we want to do here, let me get back up here to our setup, our preferences. And what I usually like to do is tracks and MIDI devices or tracks and MIDI channels for our track color coding. For clip color coding, I'm going to make that track color. So that's going to always reflect that. And I can do that. So these will be blue. Let's just go down the line here. And I'm going to go ahead, these next four are a percussion. So let's get those together. Let's make those their own color. These three are bass. Let's do those together and make them a nice color. I'll make purple. Let's get all these guitars together, make them green. We got two acoustics. Let's make those some of them other color. Anyways, we can go down the line and do all this stuff. And I'll do that. I'm going to do that here in a minute, but I'll sort of spare you all that details. Okay, so we got that done. With any track grouping we need to do, for instance, like this left and right room. Let's make sure that they travel together. They need to go together. So let's left and right them and group them. Anything else like that we need to do, like this guitar, there's two microphones. There's two microphones. We looked at that earlier, so we'll highlight those. We'll group those. Two guitar. And we go through this process of making sure anything that's double, that needs to be going together, it goes together. But those groups, and then if you want the large groups like the drum groups and stuff like that, that's your call, however you want to operate with that. All right, so the next thing we need to do here, obviously, is our favorite thing, which is the mix and submix routine. So I'm going to go up here. I've already decided, I know that I need 9 submixes, 9 masters, including the submix. So I'm going to go to New. I'm going to make stereo, aux inputs. And oh yeah, let me make sure I get 9 of them. Okay, let's create those. While they're lit up, I'll click down here and make them one color. Then while that's lit up, I'm going to go ahead and make one new stereo audio track. That's our mix track. Okay, and I like that to be sort of a royal purple myself. Then, of course, what we need to do, we always want to keep naming things. For now, I'm going to definitely name the submix. And here's, again, how we do the routing for this sort of thing. We're going to start at the end. Here's the mix is going to be going out, so let's start with a bus. We'll make a new bus. Hey, quit it. All right, 9 and 10, we'll right-click on that, rename it, mix. All right, make sure this submix bus is going to the mix bus. Right, then the input for that, we'll make a new bus again. Hey, quit it. All right, do that. Let's right-click on that, rename it, submix. Then let's just get all these masters that we haven't named yet. We're going to name them in a minute. We're going to shift option the outputs of those, and they're all going to go to, guess right, submix. So all the masters to submix, submix to mix, mix out. And as you may recall, we put the mix in input so we can monitor through our mix at all times. It's always good to monitor from the tail end of everything if possible. We'll put this also in solo safe. We're going to command click on the S. We're also going to solo safe all of our masters too while we're doing this. Let's just do it because we need to. It's necessary. That way when we can solo things up, we'll be doing a lot of soloing when we do, well, I do a lot of soloing when I do mixing, so I want to make sure it flows through. All right, so we got that done. Then what we're going to have to do, obviously, we have to start assigning all of these. We're going to have to start pulling together, and here's just a sample of that. I'm not going to do all that once right now. We're going to skip ahead here momentarily. For the drums, I'm going to click on that. I'm going to just shift click over to here. Shift option click on the output. New bus. 1314. Right click on that, rename it drum bus. Or just drum. Come over here to this first one here. Double click, call it drum. And input drum. We'll do that with each of these groups, and I'm going to skip ahead to where we've already done all that. But first I want to show you one other thing before we leave this particular session. I'm going to come back here, and as you notice, we have all this stuff is still sort of chopped. And at some point, if you haven't done it already, you do need to sort of go through and make sure that you've got any crossfades taken care of in different situations. Like for instance, over here with the Ross guitar, let's just make sure that this is a good edit. For instance, if there's something like this, this will probably be okay, but we want to make sure that we've sort of addressed all of these kind of things, doing any crossfades we need to do on any of these tracks, maybe even do some fade outs of some things. Make sure everything's clean. I should have made sure that everything was cleaner beforehand, but as you get the idea. So you want to do all this because what we're going to be doing next, once we've done all of this, all of our color coding and everything like this, which I hadn't quite finished here, we're going to then consolidate all these tracks. And the way we do that, I just want to show you one more time how to consolidate. What we would do is we would take the all group, we'd click on the all group over here. We would highlight all, we basically highlight everything. We come up here to edit, and we go to consolidate clip. And what this is going to do is it's now going to, from all of these sort of edited clips, it's now going to make master clips of all of these that we can now we can now edit. And the reason why we're going to do this is so that when we start this mix, rather than doing it with the faders, we can start with clip gain, and when we can make adjustments across the entire song. If I make an adjustment down here with one of these little guys, I got to do it to all of them. Why not just consolidate the track, and that way I can do macro moves on my mix. And then if I need to do some, some things have to be at different levels, we'll then chop it later as needed. But for now, let's consolidate everything. So that's what we would do. We would do a consolidate. It would take a minute, but we would consolidate this, and then we would move on from here. So I'm going to jump ahead, and I'm going to stop this right now, and I'll see you guys on the next page after we've done all this. Okay, and we're magically fixed here. Looking at this, here's my session now. I've got everything color coded out. I've got my K guitars over here in green, my acoustic guitars. I got my Ross guitars. I've got my violins. I've got the bird. Everybody's got their own track. It's consolidated. I can now set all my levels now from here to set the basic tracks for making my basic mix. I can do it from clip gain, which is the whole point of this exercise of doing this consolidation. But anyways, everything's pretty much lined up where I want it. Let's look at the mix page real quick and have a look over here. Let's look at the routing again. I want to sort of make sure that we understand how we do the routing for this. Again, looking at our mix, our final mix area, we've got it going out to the monitor. Whatever that is should have this little icon right here. The bus input for that is the mix input. That's the output of the submix. The submix is the input for the submix. All of our masters feed the submix. And each of these have their own specific bus going to them. Then as we can go down our tracks, we can see all of our drums are going to the drum, the percussions are all going to the percussion, the basses to the bass, blah, 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 blah. Everything is lining up. The other thing that I've done, I went ahead and zeroed out my, I went ahead and put it into an all and hit option clicked the fader. So now everything's at 0 with the faders. This is where I want to start because, again, I want to do everything with clip gain at the beginning before I go to the faders. I want to use the faders as little as possible. If I want to, in fact, if I just want to mostly use it for automation purposes, really, is what I want to use. So everything at 0. The only problem with this, though, I will tell you right now, is when I start playing this with all the tracks playing, it's going to go into the red here. And I'll even, hey, let's see what that looks like. Yeah, as you can see, it's hitting the red because everybody's at full blast. So anyways, what I'm going to be doing here in a bit, we'll be addressing that. Obviously, that's a problem. So we're going to start, when we start the mix, we're going to start bringing back our levels to more manageable levels, and we're going to sort of build this back up, again, from clip gain. So that's what we want to do. So let's check our pre-flight list here and make sure that we are sort of on track with this. So we've listened to the rough mix, we've made some notes, we've assessed our tracks. Hey, where are you going? Quit it. Hey, quit it. Okay. Anyway, so listening to the rough mix, the track assessment, we did some basic panning on anything that had to be left right. We did some comments as needed. Track arrangement, we've sort of arranged all our tracks into their areas where we can find them easily. Another thing that I'll also do, here's another thing I recommend doing. You may also notice that these guitars are in the order as they come in the song. The first ones are the earliest ones, the later ones are the later ones. I like to sort of do that with my guitar tracks too, and any other keyboard tracks. I think I've got this one's a little out. But for the most part, I try to get it so that everything sort of has a time logic to it in terms of what I'm doing. Okay, then we've got our mix submix. All of our routing's good. We've double checked our edits, our track names, because we want to check our track names before we do any consolidating. Once we consolidate, they will take on the name of the track. We did our consolidation, good. We zeroed out the faders. Oh yeah, and then we turned off. For now, we've turned off our automation. This is our automation area where it says off. I've got those off right now, just in case I had any automation moves for my rough mixing, because sometimes I'll do that. or just, if you have automation written, just undo it. But just to be on the safe side, I'll turn it off. We'll turn all this back on later. So anyways, I've got my blank slate, but I'm not quite ready for action, because what I also like to do before I go much further than this is I want to go ahead and do a bunch of send and returns of things that I know for sure that I want sends and returns for. And so I have a list of those. And let me go back to this over here, my create sends and returns for known needs. I know I'm going to want a drum compressor for the kick and snare. I just know I'm going to want that, so I'm going to make sure I have that. I'm going to want a drum reverb of its own. I want all my guitars and violins, the K guitar, the R guitar, the violin, and the backgrounds to each have their own reverbs. Yes, I do want them to have their own distinct reverbs. I may want to have different size needs, different EQ needs for each of these reverbs, so I'm going to have their own special in the reverbs. The acoustic guitar, I feel like I'm going to want a compressor for that, so I'm going to have a compression track for that. It'll need to be stereo. I'm going to want a reverb for it, probably. I want a lead vocal delay, just a little shadow on the lead vocal, separate from the lead vocal to warm it up and just give it a little bit of relief, and its own reverb as well. So those are the things I know I'm going to want to make for sends and returns, rather than wait until I'm in the heat of the moment of mixing to do that. Let's do this now. And this is all pre-flight. I'm going to do all of this, and then once I'm done with this, I'm going to save it, and I'm going to go chill. I'm going to go do something else for a while. I'm going to go, have some food. I'm going to go for a walk. And having done all of this is sort of set my table for later when I have a fresh head, feeling good. I got some time, and I can then just jump into this and start mixing like a monster. So that's the plan. That's why I'm doing all this stuff, and that's why I know this is kind of a boring thing to do, but this is sort of gets you ready for that. All right, so let's look again at how we want to do that. For instance, I'm not going to do it with all of these because that's kind of time consuming. I'm going to do it with a couple of them, and then we'll move on. So with the drums, since we're going to be doing drums first anyway, let's address the drum situation. First of all, I will need a mono aux input, because for kick and snare I don't need stereo. I haven't decided if I'm going to do it with the tom-toms yet. I might do a tom-tom compressor, but we'll see. We'll wait on that. I'm pretty sure though I want to do kick and snare, so let's deal with that. So a mono aux input. Make sure that these are aux inputs, not audio tracks. I make this mistake all the time. Don't be one of those people like me. So okay, one new of those, and I need one stereo aux inputs. So one stereo, and that's going to be for my reverb. Oh yeah, make sure it's not aux. Right? Yeah. All right, I want these guys to be the same color as the other fellers. And so I'm going to go over here and make them nice and blue. Let's name them drum comp and drum verb. And while we're at this, let's include them into the group. So this is this thing that you might want to learn how to do. I'll show you real quick. Go over to the groups and right click on the side there. I'm sorry, that's not what I meant to do. Just click on the side there. Don't right click on it. Double click on it. Silly me. Double click. And then you'll see we have our new available things to add to it. Let's add them. Now they're part of the group. And now all these guys live together when they're grouped. Let me group them. I'll show you what I mean. Remember, everybody's in the same boat. But let's not do that right now. We'll ungroup them. Now we have to set these guys up properly. Let's make sure both of them are going out the drum thing. If we don't do this, they're just going to go straight to the monitor. And if we go straight to the monitor, we'll hear it. And when we're mixing, we'll hear it. But what will happen is that it won't get on the tracks because everything is routed through our submixes now. So make sure those goes into the drums things. You might want to make a separate effects stem. Now, some people do that too. I don't want to tell you what to do, but that's not a bad idea. But for now, we'll do it this way. Let's make sure that their inputs are good. So let's get our buses. This is a mono bus, so 37. Let's right click on that, rename it drum comp. All right, let's go to this one, bus. We can't use 37 because it's a mono bus we're using, so we got to skip over to 39. Right click on that, rename it drum verb. Now, kick and snare are going to hit the drum compressor, so let's make sure those go to the drum compressor down here. Let's get that. So I've assigned these two sends to the drum comp bus, and I went ahead and option clicked both of them so that they are both sending equal amount from 0. So the kick and snare are going to hit this the same. And let's go ahead and assign my 76 to this. I like these 1176s at fast attack. All the way up is fast, all the way up is release on these. So that's sort of counterintuitive, but that's how those work. We'll just sort of save that for a little bit later. We're going to hang on to that. Let's go ahead and, while we're over here, let's go ahead and set up a reverb. Let's just go ahead and get a true verb up. I don't know what's going to be yet. I'm not really sure what size we want yet, but we'll just have it ready to go. And let's say, what we want for that, though, we're going to want to make sure the kick, snare, all tom-toms, the crap mic probably, not the overhead or the room. So let's just go ahead and take it all the way up to here. Shift Option, make a new send, and we're going to go down here to our new drum reverb, burp. And I'm not going to put these up yet. I'm not going to put anything into the drum reverb quite yet. We're going to sort of leave these sort of follow for right now. We'll add those as needed, but this is just ready to go. I can start just bringing these up and bringing them into the reverb as I think I need to once we decide on when we define our reverb. So I'm basically good to go with that. When I'm going to then go down the line with each of these, the percussion, I don't think I'm going to want it for that. The bass, I don't usually do reverb on bass. Some people do. I don't. The guitars will want one. The acoustics, these guitars will want one. These other things will want one. So I'm going to make these for our next session. So this is where I'm going to leave it for now, because what I want to be able to do is sort of, again, I'm trying to get all this sort of basic work stuff done out of the way early. The one more thing that I think I will do, though, before we go any further, actually, we're not quite done yet. One thing I'm definitely going to want to address, though, I'm pretty sure, is this whole thing with the tom-toms. I don't think I'm going to want that to ring all the way through all the time. So I'm going to probably want to go through this here and take a moment and sort of see if I can't make some sense of these. They're a little crazy here. Let's just... I sort of feel like I want these to, I don't think I want those to ring out the whole time. So we probably want to gate these. So let's look at gating these real quick. I may do a more drastic thing, though, and actually do this more physically and do this more like this, where I would take away that and take away this. Let's zoom in a little bit more. Put a little crossfade on the top of this, and go through it and do all these. So I get rid of a lot of that ring. I mean, I don't think I'm going to want that ring. So that's one way to do it, and that's sort of time-consuming, painstaking to go through all these and do that. But it'll take you about 30 to 40 minutes once you get the hang of it. Time well spent, but hey, this is part of what we do. But definitely these floor toms, we don't want that ringing the whole time. So we'd probably go up to here. That's the first time it hits. Let's jump in here and lose these other hits. Put a little crossfade coming to the top of this. Let's solo this up, see what's happening real quick. Let's get that. We want a lot of that. I think that we want that to ring all the way out to here. Put a little bit of crossfade on that. And we'll go ahead and take that crash on the cymbal. I mean, we're just gonna have to accept that. So yeah, but I would then isolate that, for instance, and I'd go through and do all these floor toms. There's another one there. There's another one there. There's another one there. Just go through and just isolate those and physically gate them, and then you can get rid of all this extra stuff. So that way we're cleaning up the drum tracks a little bit when we do that, and we're sort of keeping a lot of these extra microphones from ringing out that we don't really need and causing extra phase. We're going to address the phase issues here in a minute with all of this. But when we come back on our next thing, we're going to be doing all about drums, and I'll get into all this stuff, and it'll be a lot of fun. So. All right, that's the first segment in making the mix. Once again, we've got consolidated tracks, color-coded. Everything is ready to go. We've made our routing. We've created a bunch of new sends and returns for our reverbs. And what we're going to try to do is make it so all we can do is just mix, party and mix, have a fun time, respond to the mix, let the mix tell us what to do. And we'll do this at a later date too, because we don't want to, after having done all of this for an hour or two, all of a sudden go, hey, I feel creative to mix. Nah, you want to take a little break and then get back to it. All right, see you in a few. Bye-bye.